YouTube, Josh Kirkman here, and this is a long time coming ever since I made the ranking of the 7 Deadly Sins, because as of the latest season, as of this video, there's one other team-ish, that I have to cover. If I was to cover Meliodas and his crew, I had to cover his old crew. That's right, I just spoiled it. I did it. Might as well say it now. Spoilers ahead, you are warned. Yeah, Meliodas' old team. He used to lead the 10 Commandments. That's the topic of today's ranking. The 10 Commandments. Now, I bet you're thinking, Joey, the 10 Commandments are things you believe in, things you should do with your life. No. Yeah, tell that to the writer of the 7 Deadly Sins. The writer of the anime. He depicts the 10 Commandments as a group of 10 demons picked by the Demon King himself. And he gave them a special power which we'll refer to as a commandment. Even though I said in my last video with the 7 Deadly Sins, you can go find it, I mentioned the commandments are less of a commandment and more of a curse. Because it prevents the user from going against their own commandment. And it's obvious in the episode where Escanor kills Galland. Funny enough, he's number 10. Galland, the commandment of truth. Now, I might put the commandment in there, like their curse is, but if it's not stated, because a lot of their commandments are really not explored yet, as of this video, I won't put it. But if it is, expect it down here somewhere. Galland is the commandment of truth. The commandment of truth is very obvious. Very, very, very obvious, actually. Those who willingly lie in Galland's presence will be turned to stone. I say willingly because there's one episode where he encounters Deanne. He makes a statement. She says, huh? Do I know you? And Galland's like, no, you do. That's a lie. But you're not turning to stone. They have to know they are lying. Because Deanne lost her memories because of a stupid 7 deadly sin known as Gother. I still hate you, Gother. You ruined the best character of the show. I will never forgive you. Oh, whew. Sorry, did I go off on Gother again? My bad. Back to Galland. Yeah, he's short-lived. He is one of the few 10 Commandments to die in the season. And better yet, he died to Escanor. There's nothing else to say. To me, he's a buffoon. Yeah, sure. The minute he was released from the seal due to Fraudrin's possession of... What's his name? Oh boy, it's a blank. I'm drawing a blank. Dreyfus and Hendrickson. He immediately charged at Meliodas wanting revenge. All the 10 Commandments wanted revenge because Meliodas turned on the 10 Commandments. And his younger brother Zeldris became their new leader. The funny thing is, that means he turned a bit of information on Meliodas that I didn't mention last time. Well, I think I did. He is the son of the Demon King, but the Demon King has 2 other sons. Well, one of which he created himself. An archangel who was remade into Esther OSA. So it's a half-brother. And then a real brother, Meliodas, who's Zeldris. Really obvious face. Okay, moving back. I put Galland at the bottom. He's the weakest, but that's compared to Escanor. So I had to weigh that a little, but considering the 10 Commandments, I put him last because good riddance. No one likes a character like that. Moving on. Number 9. Speaking of number 9, Fraudrin, who replaces a commandment. A certain one. He wasn't an original member. He was replaced. He was the replacement of the Demon Gother. Oh, I thought I mentioned this before. I did. The demon Gother made the Gother we know today. But the demon Gother was killed by one of the 10 Commandments and replaced with this jerk. And he took his commandment of selflessness. And it's a really important one because he's the first 10 Commandment you ever see. Why, you may ask? He possessed Hendrickson. He became the final boss of the first season and then took Dreyfus's body. He's also one of the 10 Commandments that die in this season. Like him, I don't know, I think it's like 2 or 3 that die. And then, plot twist at the very end, Zeldris takes over Camelot. Fraudren's commandment is selflessness. You'd think that doesn't sound harmful? Think again. Selflessness causes those who have feelings or greed of selfish desire to lose their memories, feelings, and entire sense of self. That's an important one. That's how he was able to take control of Hendrickson and Dreyfus and use them to, first of all, frame the 7 deadly sins for killing Hendrickson's older brother, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm a little new on the Holy Knight thing. Then he made the whole kingdom think the 7 deadly sins were crooks and thieves and not the heroes that the king made them to be. And that's why they went into hiding. But with the defeat of Hendrickson and the thought of them being enemies gone, they were able to come back out of hiding. But Fraudren remained a problem until the end of the 2nd season when he was killed. Finally. I say finally because he is the demon that kills Meliodas' love hundreds of thousands of times. Let me explain. First of all, Meliodas can never die. When he does, he gets resurrected because that was his old commandment. That's right. Even if Meliodas changed sides, he can never get rid of his commandment. Even though he has the sin of rage. Sin of wrath. That's the funny thing. And the funny thing is, Meliodas' love, who nowadays is Elizabeth, when she dies, because of this demon, she gets reincarnated as a baby every single time. That's right. It sounds absurd, but when you watch the show, it's pretty plain as day. Okay, can we move on? Those were 2 I had to explain, because the other 10 Commandments are less explained but more visually pleasing, like our next 2. Number 8 on my list is the previous Fairy King, Gloxina. Gloxina, I don't know how to say it. Gloxina. He may look like a girl, but it's a guy. Yeah. The artist of the 7 Deadly Sins is good at making feministic-looking characters. Take Gother. When I first saw him, I mistook him for a girl. Okay? That's how good he is at making characters. Gloxina took the role of Commandment of Repose. Now, considering that he was the previous Fairy King, and my number 7 being Droll, the previous Giant King, they're not demons at their blood. You see, 2 of the 10 Commandments were killed off-screen to make room for this. Zeldris took Gloxina and Droll in. He made them 10 Commandments. Well, his father, the Demon King. And, yeah, basically gave them that. And gave them new purpose. Now, Repose, like I said at the beginning of this video, a lot of these commandments are unknown. Repose is one of them. Because all Gloxina does is prove that he was the old fairy king with his sacred treasure, sacred staff, King has chastity full, so what does Gloxina have? Oh, I forgot its name. Sacred treasure, just look it up, okay? It's a thing. There's nothing else to say, because the rest of it's unknown. So number 7 is the Giant King Droll. It's the same thing as Gloxina, basically. I had to put them next to each other. It's the easiest way to explain it. And his commandment is the commandment of patience. Wow. No wonder they gave it to the Giant King. And the effects of it? Unknown. Finally, we can move on to some of my favorites. Number 6 to number 1 are my favorite 10 commandments. No joke. I love these characters more. Number 6. Monspeet. The commandment of reticence? You can see the word. I don't know how to say it. This one is actually explainable because it's one that Monspeet wishes he didn't have with a certain someone, which you'll see in a minute. His commandment means those who expressed hidden feelings / emotions would have their voices blocked. You'll see why. Number 5, Derriere. This is where. The commandment of purity, say it right now, purity is an unknown commandment. Monspeet wishes he didn't have his commandment because he has hidden feelings for Derriere. Which is why you think they die, because I was debating on whether I should include them in the count of commandments that die in the season, because Meliodas does hit them with a full counter. But, spoiler alert, they're alive. In the Seven Deadly Sins manga, it's shown that they are alive, and that Monspeet's commandment is broken, because he's living with Derriere, and he confessed his love for her. But since Zeldris ordered them back to regroup, and they both ignored him, Zeldris' commandment kicked in, which you'll see later on. It's actually a really complicated one. He went after them and killed them. You'll see why when we get to him. Number 4 is Melascula, the commandment of faith. This one is actually explained. Yeah, I think we've already covered all the commandments that are unknown. So, yay! We can talk more. Melascula's commandment is faith. Faith means, in this situation, any who show faithfulness in her presence will have their eyes set ablaze. Of course, you don't see that ability a lot. You do see her taking souls from humans and devouring them, even though Derriere does this too. But Melascula is more famous for it because that's all she does, besides her spell that revives the dead, which is how Elaine was able to revive. And when Melascula is killed, all the souls she brought back from the dead will return to the world of the dead. That's why Bond doesn't want to kill her yet. Moving on, because there's nothing else to talk about other than the fact that she got burned by Escanor's power. Yeah. His sacred treasure killed Galland, and his hidden abilities, Sunshine, burned Melascula. So let's leave it at that. Number 3 is Grey Road, the commandment of pacifism. She. That's right. This thing is a she. But I put her so high because of her commandment and the way Merlin dealt with it. And I'm going to make sure I read this correctly so I'm not getting any information wrong. Pacifism. Anyone who kills in her presence will have their time stolen from them and will rapidly age until they die. It's funny because the episode itself explains how Merlin was able to counteract that commandment. She cast a spell on herself that gives her infinite time, basically, which means she can never lose that time and die. She can basically live for an eternity. And then Grey Road and Dreyfus, Fraudrin, look at her and say, "That's cheating! That's unfair!" I'm like, well, we have to fight the commandments. It's a strategic move by Merlin. Now we're getting to the 2. And I bet if you're a Seven Deadly Sins fan, you're thinking, oh, he talked about 8 of them. The only 2 left are the brothers of Meliodas. And you're right. So now it's which one goes where. Number 2 or number 1. I hate to break it to you, but number 2 is Zeldris, Commandment of Piety, which is the same as Meliodas's initially. I think so. I don't know. I haven't done my research on the previous. I did it for the current, because that's the ones we see. Because I don't read the manga all that much. I read past the ending of the season to get ahead. Zeldris' commandment. It's a doozy, because it applies to the Demon King too. Any who turn their back on Zeldris are treated as committing an act of treachery and are cursed into serving the Demon King. But Esther OSA went against that. He was the one that killed Montspeed and Derriere in the manga. Not Zeldris, because Zeldris already had command of Esther OSA. And like I said before, he was the one that offered Gloxina and Droll the positions on the 10 Commandments. I put him at number 2 because there's not much known about him other than this, and the fact that he took over Camelot at the end of the season. So, until Seven Deadly Sins gets a proper Season 3, I mean, people call the 10 Commandments Season 3, because first season, Signs of Holy War. This season, I don't, because Signs of Holy War I count as an extension of the first season. So when we get a proper Season 3 is when we'll get more information. Actually, wait a minute. Proper Season 3 would just be the manga from those extra sections. So, until we see it in animation form, this is what it will be from me. Number 1. And it's pretty obvious. I've covered 9 of them. There's 1 left. If you're smart, you'll know who's left. I'll give you 5 seconds. Time's up. Number 1. Esther OSA. My favorite commandment of all time. The commandment of love. Even though it's the complete opposite. But you can't deny that face. In fact, he is the face of Meliodas' wanted poster. And that sparked a lot of debate, like, why is Esther OSA on Meliodas' wanted poster? I might have an image of that up in the top corner. I don't know. But you can look it up yourself. His commandment is love. It's nothing like it sounds. Love. Those who stand before him with hatred in their hearts will be rendered powerless to inflict damage on anyone else. So I bet you're wondering, how did they fend off Esther OSA? Simple. The one guy who doesn't have hatred in his heart. The one with pride. The lion's sin of pride. Escanor. That's right. Escanor faced Esther OSA. Unlike Galland, though, Esther OSA survived. Just barely, though. He had to have help from his brother Zeldris to survive Escanor's fireball. Still, it was lovely to see that fight. But Esther OSA is one of my favorites because you saw his face in the first episode of the 7 Deadly Sins, and you don't know it until the 10 Commandments season because of that wanted poster. I've been talking for so long. I had to make this video the minute after the 7 Deadly Sins video, since I already hinted at the 10 Commandments. I was like, I'll make a video. Here it is. Don't ask for any more 7 Deadly Sins content from me. Please. There are tons of videos that cover theories about characters, evolutions of characters, yada yada yada. You don't want to hear any more of it from me. I covered the 2 things I love about the show. The 7 Deadly Sins and the 10 Commandments. Whew. Now, thank you all so much for watching. If you liked it, like button, subscribe, share the video with a friend, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.